Good afternoon to those who came for the lecture, and thank you to those who stayed after the first one. Okay, so this slightly different topic, and this topic is due to the, let's say, I was forced to tell something about landscape archaeology, and it's when I prepared it, it will be landscape will appear in last slide, okay? So let's start with it. I'm sure.
Can I just say one point, which we were talking in our last lecture, that we are still working in traditional archaeology of the 19th century, at least in some sense of the terminology, sites, archaeological cultures, and so on and so on, and monuments, and etc. But I think that, for instance, landscape is one of the words which actually arrived relatively recently and became very, very widespread, of course. That's the other point. But before landscape as a term started to be used, there was anything else like, I mean, with processualism, it was a space, or supplement patterns and so on. So landscape is something which I would guess is a reflection of at least post-Second World War, or maybe even later, 70s, 1980s, especially in postmodern art, post-processual archaeology. This became something which is really, everything is on the landscape today. So.
Okay. But when we think about the landscape archaeology, I have to return what was before, okay? So I'm sure that you heard the terms Siedlung archaeologii, and in Poland it is straight, in Polish it's straight translated into archeologia osadnictwa. I don't know how it is in Czech. Siedlung archaeologii. Siedlung archaeologii.
Sídelní archeologie, or archeologie sídlisk, or sídelní archeologie.
Okay, and the Polish archaeologists were very much influenced by the book published by Herbert Jankun in 1977, but it was different approach or different understanding of Siedlung archaeologie, because the Siedlung archaeologie term was used by Gustav Kosina already in 19th century, late 19th century, but it was then, the Siedlung archaeology was very much affected by ethnical problems. Okay, so they were looking for ethnos and so on, identify settlements with people. Jankun, after the Second World War, did not discuss the problems of ethnos, but just relics of the, let's say, settlements and the complex of stuff which we can call Siedlung archaeologii or archeologia osadnictwa. And this kind of approach, Jankun's approach, was very much popular in Poland, and it was quite quickly translated into Polish, already translated in 1983. So it was very much promoted, the approach which was already existed in Polish archaeology. Because these problems of archeologia osadnictwa was discussed between the wars, First and Second World War, but mostly by historians. And now there is a question, what is the relation between Siedlung archaeologii or archeologia osadnictwa and landscape archaeology? Is it a difference or not? Is it the same? Or how far the understanding of these terms are different? Or how far the practices are different? Because sometimes we can understand something in a specific way, but we follow the practices which are, let's say, from the previous times. I will tell something about the Polish approach, and I can see that you know it, at least some of you know it. Polish archaeological record, And the method of the collecting information, acquiring the information about something which is called archaeological sites across the whole Poland. So we started this project in late 70s, in 78, 79. And due to this project, we Polish archaeologists used to do field walking to collect information, to record archaeological sites, to create maps, so located each archaeological site on a map, and put basic information about this. So it happened more or less the same time. This Jankun book, Siedlung Archäologie, Introduction to Settlement Archaeology. It was 77, translated 83. The AZP project started in 78, so it means they started discussion in, let's say, mid-70s. So AZP program represented the way of thinking which was more or less in 70s in Poland. And this kind of way of thinking decided or influenced the more or less structure of this evidence or record which is for each individual archaeological site. So which is more or less half of information is geographic information. Yeah? So the valleys, the sort of soils, many different sorts of information. Because archaeologists believe that geographic information is fundamental to understand past societies. It is not, let's say, surprising because this kind of concept was introduced by Wlodek Raczkowski by the end of 19th century. Yeah? And it was still, let's say, influencing archaeologists' thinking. Since 70s, late 70s, from early 80s until now, almost whole Poland was covered by this project. So we got more than 500,000 of archaeological sites recorded in Poland in database. And those data are used for archaeological research, which is called archeologia osadnictwa or Siedlung Archäologii. So we got information about the locations, about size, the chronology, function, and the geographical settings in this database. And this database and the structure of this card or the record influence thinking, archaeologists' thinking until now. So archaeologists quite frequently study having this information, the database, big database, they study the relations to soils. Yeah? So it is like Raczkowski proposed in 19th century. We are in 21st century. We got very good tools like GIS, for example. We got a fantastic information, archaeological information, and we think in the same way like Raczkowski in 19th century. So due to the technology we got in GIS, we can also do some different spatial analysis. Okay, so you can see the Thyssen polygons, the buffers, and something like that. So the buffers represent, let's say, the thinking about site catchments, for example. Yeah. So the relations to topography, is it on the slope? The site is on the slope, on the bottom of valley, or on the highlands, or so. So it's possible to do a statistics just like that, yeah, using GIS. So archaeologists now in Poland, especially young archaeologists, they follow the directions which come from, let's say, 19th century, and they use technology, 21st century technology, and it's not changing thinking, okay? And there are some fundamental misunderstanding in this process, and no one discussed it, let's say. It was presented in the literature for several times, including by Zbyszek Kobyliński, who also dealt with this kind of projects, that we as archaeologists make mistakes identifying the relation between archaeological site and, let's say, settlement or cemetery or seasonal camp or whatever. Okay? What is very important, during the AZP project, we used just one method, field walking survey, right? Just picking up pottery or flints or something like this, and that's all. So, and the recommendation was that if we got more than 10 pieces of pottery, it should be settlement. If there are 7 pieces of pottery or 5 pieces of pottery, it is a camp. Yeah? Okay? So you can see that immediately by the guiding of this program, already it was introduced sort of thinking about the past or about the archaeological record, right? And currently, because in database there is a settlement, so they just make a statistics of settlements, yeah, without thinking what really those 10 pieces or 12 pieces of pottery represent, right? So immediately, archaeological site, as it is defined, and it was defined by archaeologists in the field, immediately becomes to be settlement in the past. So we do not realize as archaeologists that we put together 2 different categories: epistemological tool, archaeological site. The term archaeological site is epistemological tool we use, and it is identified with ontological entity, settlement, right? And it is not true, okay? So it means that all, let's say, spatial analysis within settlement pattern studies or Siedlung archaeology, whatever we can call it, it's just operating in a sort of fiction. Yeah? We study what we created. Yeah? We do not study the past, we study data we created. Okay? Can you understand? And do you agree with me? Okay, in Czech Republic, I remember, I am not very much, let's say, I was not very much involved in this discussion, but Professor Evgen Neustupny did this kind of studies, interesting studies about the settlement pattern in the past. Martin Kuna, Dr. Dreschler, Professor Dreschlerova, yeah? Yeah, okay, so there were discussions, Central European archaeology, it was a discussion, let's say, starting to rethink the concepts proposed by Jan Kun. In Poland, there was no this kind of discussion, so we just follow. And the AZP program, which from my point is, on the one hand, it's fantastic and unrepeatable in Europe program of recording archaeological sites. On the other hand, it fossilized way of thinking. So we are still thinking through this, let's say, record, what is in the record. So from my point of view, and some people also, there is no equivalent that the archaeological site is not a settlement, right? Because it is archaeologists who in the field make a decision, okay, when I found some pieces of pottery and they draw the polygon, yeah? Okay, but next year, the distribution of pottery could be different, right? Or it could be that the third year there would be no pottery on the field, right? And there were no site then. So, okay, it is, so everything what is in the record, it is just by chance, yeah? And of course, were archaeologists after party, previous day, or not? It is also got an impact on the results of field walking. Okay? Have you experienced something like this? Okay, no parties, okay.
Now or later?
Yes.
As far as I know, AZP actually was is methodologically, as you say, is based in the pioneering times of which means the end of the 70s, as you say, Yankun. So, and I remember some lectures by Kowalski, for instance, which he had something like 15 years ago in our institute in Prague. And in those times, they said that mostly, and which is something which surprised me a little bit, what you say now, that it's better in that sense. He said that that time, until that time, the data from AZP were most commonly used for heritage reasons, not for research.
Not research as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Which was a pity, of course, a great pity,
Yeah.
certainly. As he commented it, which is quite obvious. That's the point. So this may be changed now, as you say, that the young archaeologists apply the data for research and so on. But originally it wasn't. And I think it actually came from the Jankun's methodology, which he named archaeologisches Aufnahme, which is zdjęcie. Absolutely the same concept. And then, but now they started something which they call, I think, AZP2, and it brought something. What's the problem?
Do not finish my lecture, please.
You asked about discussion, and
Okay.
if you criticize so much AZP, so I think, but there was a change.
Yeah, I will get it. Yes. Okay. Okay. But you can expect that there will be something different, yeah? Not just criticism of AZP, okay? Yes, just to add, I did a sort of analysis of the publications, Polish publications, mostly young people, using term osadnictwo or archeologia osadnictwa in articles or books and so on. And then those images are from those publications. Young people are very well skilled in using GIS. So if they got data on maps, so they can produce plenty of different maps, yeah? But the question is, what for? Yeah? If these young people present this kind of papers, proposals to the old professors, wow, it is real fantastic. Yeah? Do not thinking about what is on the background. Yeah? On the background, it is still 19th century thinking. But the presenting data is in completely different way. Okay. According to Jankun, within this process of acquiring data, aerial photographs should be used. Jankun was open for many different methods, and archaeologists should apply many different methods to be able to do Siedlungsarchäologie studies. In Poland, it was a tradition of using aerial photographs, or maybe rather taking aerial photographs from 30s of 20th century. But for AZP program, it was just one sentence. It would be recommended to use aerial photographs. And no one never used aerial photographs in this project. Okay? So it means that we got data exclusively from field walking. Of course, if the site previously was excavated, so there is some also in the record there are some information about the excavated sites. So how is the situation now? How we got this approach or understanding settlement archaeology within the technological revolution starting from 90s? In Poland, this technological revolution was from reintroducing aerial photographs, and then shortly after that, it was using the airborne laser scanning, and currently also we can use satellite imagery. So just one slide showing the results. As you can see here, we got our 2 archaeological sites as recorded during field walking, one visit to the field, yeah? and the result of just one flight and taking photographs and the distribution of crop marks. I'm sure that you know what crop marks means. So the distribution of crop marks representing probably past human activities, it's here. Is it a difference? It is a difference. Might it have a difference on impact on the settlement studies using GIS? Might have. It is another case. I don't know how it is visible. It is an archaeological site recorded during AZP. This another site here. And it is the distribution of crop marks, or let's say archaeological features, which were interpreted based on aerial photographs. Is it a difference? It is a huge difference, okay? So if something like that was already identified, let's say in 90s or late 90s, so it should be immediately, it should be rethinking the value of field walking survey, yeah? And the cognitive value of field walking survey. Unfortunately, it not happened. Then, shortly after that, it was introduced the laser airborne laser scanning, airborne ALS. Yeah? So, especially in the forest, forests were usually out of field walking. When I did field walking, I usually went into forest to find out that, but of course the visibility and opportunity to identify it was different. So it was a revolution in terms of number of new features identified in Poland. Forest in Poland, it's 1/3 of the whole territory. So you can imagine that it is a complete revolution in understanding of the number of relics from the past. So how we can deal with this new information which are coming to archaeologists, both to archaeologists in academia and the people working in heritage management. And it is it is necessary just to build a new database. It's not just a, let's say, add information to the existing database, because fortunately now we got digitized, the whole AZP program is digitized and it's available online. But we should to build something different based on different thinking, applying different thinking. So it is what Professor Gojda already mentioned. In 2019, we started to work on the new project, which is called AZP Plus. And it is mostly devoted to heritage sector, not to research, but also the people working in research should be aware what's going on and what is possible to get using different methods. And the question appeared, how to solve the problem of the complexity and diversity of the data or information we can get from non-invasive methods or remote sensing methods, and put those diverse information into the database, and to not repeat the mistakes which are already done in AZP. So it was a challenge, and we formulated this question at the beginning of this project in 2019. And let's start with some case, 2 examples, and then there will be questions to you, mostly. What you can see. We mentioned this term on the previous lecture, but I believe that you can recognize it on this image here. There are no animals, there are no some other stuff here, yeah? It is just pure archaeology. Okay, what it could be? Come on.
Grand houses.
Oh, sunken houses, yeah. Perfect. Wow. What it could be?
And underground houses with
Perfect.
uh,
It's boring,
with
yeah?
circles.
No, there are, let's say, more or less. It might be formation processes that change the shape of the, okay, sunken houses or ground houses, yeah, whatever we can call it. Okay? It's boring, yeah? It's boring. Again, sunken houses? Oh, it's boring. It's sunken houses, again? Yeah? Okay, settlements, yeah? Settlements should be everywhere, yeah? So it's not surprising, but it's so boring when you fly and take photographs and you got just sunken houses, yeah? Martin?
Don't tell that because no one will go to the course. It's so boring.
It's so boring, yeah? Another sunken houses? Yeah? Another sunken houses? Okay. Another sunken houses? Yeah? Another sunken houses? Yeah? Another sunken houses?
Village.
Village.
Sunken town, what is the name of the town?
Okay. Boring, yeah? Boring sunken houses. Archaeology is boring, yeah? And now, finally, after, let's say 15 minutes after the previous slide photographs, I took a photograph of it. And I was excited. What is this? Why I was so excited? First, no sunken houses. Okay, yes. Why? Okay, it's not very well visible on the screen. Okay, so sorry? Historical fields? No. No, it's the sort of how it is in English? Frost cracks. Frost cracks, yeah. Okay. But it is archaeology here. At least I think it is archaeology, and it is fascinating archaeology. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you can see here the dots. Yeah. Okay. There are some structures like this. In the region where I did a survey, it was unique by expected megalithic graves, where the big stones were removed and just dots left, and then we can see megalithic graves in forms of crop marks, not standing stones. Wow, so you can imagine my emotions, yeah? Wow, finally something, yeah? Not just sunken houses. But it's not really true, okay? Because then I was really very much excited during the flight, and of course it took me, let's say, 5 minutes looking at the image when I returned home, yeah? But much more exciting than when looking at the image at home was the previous one. It was that one. Oh, znowu. Sorry. Okay, so it was that one. Someone mentioned village, yeah? Okay. I was asked to find out a church here, church which was in the village, okay? So I took the photographs because I was looking for something and to prove that I were there, yeah? And I photographed the proper field, yeah? Okay. So, but when I start to look carefully in it, I don't know if you remember from the previous lecture, this question, always asking questions, right? It's okay. Just bits, sunken houses, settlements? Okay. So let's look carefully in it. So it's possible just to look, okay, it looks like a sunken house. Does it? Yeah, it looks like a sunken house. But, okay, here we got something different. Yeah, there is a space between. What is important, there is a, let's say, line here. and there is a line here, and here there are two dots in front of, okay? And there is a line here, and there is a line here. So, come on, what's it possible? Is it possible to build a village like that? Is it possible to establish a village with a, let's say, square area empty, almost empty, with, let's say, the area with nothing which might look like a road, okay? Could it be like this? Okay, let's looking carefully at the details. We can start to think, okay, what it could be, yeah? And then, going from details, we can go to general knowledge. It can't be a village, because no one knows any village like this. And according to the knowledge, historians' knowledge, and the information about the location of villages and so on, so on, so on, so on, there were no villages like this. Okay, so what it could be? Okay, that it came to me, maybe it is a town. If it is a town, so it should be a regular structures. And it is. Every 10 meters there is another house, right? So it was a, and then when I got this, so let's look carefully and plans, medieval plans of towns. Okay, something wrong? Something wrong. Okay, so we can, okay, the blue, it's not a river, it should be just boundaries or something like different, but it gives us an information about the town, yeah? So it is a process of building information, okay? And now we can, I don't know if it is in the next slide. I also mentioned Heidegger on the previous lecture. Then it, okay, I will show, I will go back a bit. Okay, look here. There is another settlement, another town, medieval town. Yeah, we got structures like that. Here, can't see here, of course, but we got part of the marketplace here. We got here, it was photographed on the place where was now a medieval town, which was damaged in 14th century or so, yeah? But archaeologists who took the photograph did not interpret it as a town, yeah? So it was in 2006, the same year when I took this photograph. Yeah? So then I went through the process of interpretation of it, get to the conclusion it might represent medieval town, and then he looked at his own photograph. Come on, I got a medieval town as well. Yeah? Discovery, okay, but I was the first. Yeah? It's not a problem that he or me took the first photograph of medieval town, but it is a problem of the process of interpretation. Then we got the knowledge. The photograph by itself does not give us a knowledge. We need an interpretation. And each one's interpretation will be different. Okay? So now we can apply, when thinking about the interpretation of remote sensing data, but not only remote sensing data, so we got that we go through general knowledge into details and back and check information or inspirations coming from from details to the general knowledge or from general knowledge to details. And it is hermeneutics circle by Heidegger, but rather we should call it hermeneutic spiral, because we never go back to the starting point. Yeah, we will always be in different place. So it means that working with remote sensing data, we are involved in the very, very complex process of interpretation, and the results of this process of interpretation might be different if it is done by different people with different experience. So the question is how to put it into database, yeah? If database is standardizing everything. So another case, second example. I was asked by my colleague who used to work in this area to fly and take photographs of that area to find out something what could be interesting for him. He is an expert in Roman Iron Age. Unfortunately, I found nothing from Roman Iron Age. But as you can see, I managed within a short time, I managed 3 flights, and you can see a lot of places of photographs taken here. So, and there were, I'm sure that you know what is it. Okay, so Neolithic settlements or houses. Okay, I wrote my MA thesis about the Neolithic, so I was really very keen to find out it. Okay, fine, fantastic, great. It's breaking the knowledge about the Neolithic of this time in that area. Okay, and then in 2014, I was happy to start the project funded by European Space Agency, which was titled Archaeological Applications of Earth Observation Techniques. And thanks to it, we got an access to satellite imagery, even historic now, current and historic satellite imagery. So one of these let's say historic imagery. It was QuickBird with the ground resolution in panchromatic 65 centimeters, taken 2005. So before I did some flights by myself, okay? And you can see here there is a part of settlement, yeah? It's a group of houses. And when we go back, it is here, but I have not noticed it during my flights. 3 flights, and I haven't noticed this group of houses here. I flew over, yeah, but I did not notice. So 3 years and nothing, but the satellite image from 2005 shows the houses perfectly. Okay, so altogether, for this area, we got 7 different satellite imageries we can use for studies. Not all of them were useful. We got also one which was from 2014, so the year of the starting of the project. And you can see perfectly visible houses, right? Neolithic houses. Great. So it means the satellite imagery is also useful, and then we can start discussion about what is better to use satellite imagery or doing aerial reconnaissance. But it's not today. Okay? During the project, I was also able to do additional flights. I took a photograph, which, as you can see, it is just 2 weeks later after this satellite image, and we can see houses here as well, but it is partly already harvested. The crop is harvested, so it's not everything might be visible. But looking carefully at this aerial image, we can find out a relic of a part of the house, which is far away. It is away from this complex, right? So we tried to deal with satellite imagery, to play with the different stuff. Okay, now we got a multi-temporal composition of RGB imagery, so 3 different imageries put together. And okay, we can see these houses, but not especially something additional. But also we did multi-temporal composition of panchromatic, so it's better resolution. The same satellite imagery, and of course we got here, but also we found something here. So again, something which was not visible on other data. So, okay, we tried to check what is on orthophoto, so vertical photographs taken for cartographic purposes. And we can see in RGB or infrared, okay, we can see something but not specific, not something really specifically good, but we have taken into account that it's May. So in Poland, it's too early for crop marks. And then in 2015, so next year, following year, I took another photograph, and it's far from the perfect, but again, 2 weeks later, almost 2 weeks later, I took that one, which is just extremely well. Those cluster is visible. Here we can see houses. Here we can see individual houses, and we can see here. So there's this growing number of information about the size of the Neolithic settlement. So we got, let's say, data from 2005 to 2015, and the size is doubled. Yeah, and the number of probably number of houses identified is doubled. So, but we return to 2013 vertical photographs, and looking through the knowledge that something should be here, we can identify some traces which are not obvious, yeah, but because we know that houses are there, it's okay. Those kind of crop marks we can identify as relics of houses. And 2021 orthophoto maps, again, not especially well results. And now let's go back to the information, the AZP results here. We got a site here, we got a site here, nothing is here, nothing is here, nothing is here. No Neolithic pottery was found during field walking, okay? But looking also at this image, we can find out that we should not focus exclusively on Neolithic settlement, but we got plenty of other features, including sunken houses, yeah, from different periods. Okay, so generally speaking, the area of interest, archaeologist interest, should be like here, like that, after the process of analyzing and interpreting of set of remote sensing data, aerial photographs and satellite imagery. Okay, and how to put it into the database? Okay. So the conclusion, based on this, let's say, two cases, two examples, that remote sensing data shows the situation here and now, dependent on the current conditions. So it means that 1 year we can see something, and the following year we can't see, right? So we can't formulate conclusive opinions that something is or something is empty, the area is empty, based on just one approach. Yeah? We should apply many different methods and different for a longer time. And the knowledge which we got, it is a subject of interpretation. Yeah? It's not because this, let's say, relics exist. It is because we interpret them as relics which exist. Okay? So they don't exist because of themselves, they exist because of our knowledge and our interpretation. So we got a problem, ambiguity of the data, because it's a matter of interpretation, and put them into the database, okay? Which we understood the data So it means what is on the, let's say, aerial photographs or satellite imageries as unambiguous. But it's like this. Okay, so, but then we can start thinking about adding different methods. For example, geophysical methods, and then we start to build the information, different layers of information about the area. I don't want to use the term site, archaeological site, but we can get a knowledge on different layers. And it's how to put everything into one database. So we decided within this project that it should be just at least 2 steps should be done. First, we need to educate people. What are the remote sensing methods? What are the opportunities, but also threats when we use remote sensing methods? And so we've prepared the guidelines about the methods, and the guidelines is constructed in the way that then the first part is that we put information about the methods, how we can get data, how we can get data, how we can process data, why we can see or not to see, and so on. But also another part is just e-learning courses which are available online. Basic concept. The second part is about the process of interpretation. It is under preparation at this moment, this part of the guidelines, to show how complex is the process of interpretation. The third part will be devoted to methods, let's say supporting methods, because supporting methods might got an impact on the process of interpretation. Supporting methods like a historic cartography, analysis of historic cartography, or analysis of environmental features, right? Everything might have an impact on the final interpretation. And the fourth part will be devoted for presenting case studies, like that one I showed you, showing how complex it be and how the knowledge is changing when we compare data from acquired in different way, and if we continue the process of getting information. And we decided that within the database there will be information about each event on the site, okay? So whenever someone wants to do something with the site and get new photographs or get new LiDAR data or new satellite image and interpret it, so it's necessary to put not only the, let's say, vector as a layer, but also attach the information why it is interpreted like that, okay, based on what data and who did it. So as it was suggested by Professor Gojda in the previous lecture, that it should be named who did this interpretation, okay? Not that it is interpretation which could be done by everyone. So going back to landscape, slowly, okay, if we got completely different sort of data now using remote sensing method, yeah, not just 10 pieces of pottery. So we can further follow, let's say, Jan Kuhn concept that we should record field systems, we should record roads, we should go record the relations, spatial relations between all of those features. So let's say that remote sensing methods may give us much more information, much more than field walking, yeah? But does it mean that we will move to landscape archaeology? Definitely we will not be focused on site, yeah? But maybe we can look wider. But landscape is understood in many, many different ways. When we read information about biological studies, sociological studies, geographical studies, archaeological studies, historian studies, we can meet the term landscape. And the landscape is understood in different way by different people. If it is not defined, precisely defined, we really don't know what are those people writing about. Yeah? So it is absolutely necessary to define the subject of research, which is a landscape. How we can understand landscape. Mostly, very, very general, it is a generalization. Most of people understood landscape as a sum of natural and cultural features. But natural and cultural features objectively perceived. Again, back to the previous lecture, we can perceive them as existing objectively. Yeah? And those natural features, quite frequently, they are presented and described the modern situation. If we got a, let's say, river, so they use the modern maps to show the river. Yeah? Definitely, the river did not run in the same way 3,000 years ago, right? So it is very, very important to define what we are doing. And now it is end of the lecture already. Okay. Okay. So now I would, let's say, I will ask you to guess what is my answer in terms of will remote sensing methods allow us to do aerial landscape archaeology? Yes. Yes? Yes? Okay, my answer is no. And okay, not surprising. My answer is no, because I think about the landscape archaeology in terms introduced by Chris Tilly in Phenomenology of Landscape. For me, landscape is just a phenomenological concept. So we create the landscape. We define what it is in the landscape. Yeah? So we can't study past landscapes because there is no relation. Yeah? We are not in the past. We can't feel, identify, name features which are imported there. So from this point of view, we are not able to do landscape studies. What we can do phenomenology of archaeologist landscape studies. Okay? So those my emotions which I presented to you when I photograph megalithic graves, it is a phenomenology of the beginning of landscape studies. Tak? Because I find out in the landscape relics of megalithic graves. Yeah? And it is this phenomenology. Chris Tilly in his book, Phenomenology of Landscape, presented some, let's say, case studies. And they are not good from my point of view, because he was walking in landscape, but the modern landscape, and let's say building the relations and understanding the positions of the monumental structures to him now. And it is not translated into for the past people, definitely not. Okay, so just to explain why I answer for this question, no. But of course, if someone decides or make a decision that understand landscape as a sum of natural and cultural features and can use the information from remote sensing for identification of natural features in the past, not in the present, okay, I don't mind. Okay, but it should be everyone should be aware what is doing and why is doing and what are the limitations. So my final suggestion is like this. Okay, thank you very much. You must be very tired because it's hot here and yes, and not much fresh air. Yeah, but if there are questions, no, you are dying now. So anyway, thank you very much for surviving this talks.
Yes, okay, thank you.
We manage, as you can see, we all manage.
No, we could discuss this, of course, very long, and I'm very pleased that we could hear these two lectures by Wlodek, because it's refreshing, at least I think, you know. Although, yes, obviously, we could, each of us could have some special questions or visions of the, I mean, remote sensing data definitely, in my view, help to become or belong to the most important sources or resources or data or information, whatever we call it, to study of the landscape. Because for me, landscape, cultural landscape, is something about the space, not about all large territories, and contacts and connections between settlements, cemeteries, communication network, and so on. O.G.S. Crawford, who actually is at the beginning of archaeology and the landscape studies as well, he actually, why we call him, why he believe that he is one of the first most important pioneers of landscape studies, because what he was doing, that he was on mostly his experience from the ground survey and remote sensing or aerial survey was to follow large pieces of past landscape, you know, like field systems and so on. And also, because he did it luckily in southern England, he could see the setting of the hill forts and their connections, their possible connections with the fields around them, which we call Celtic fields, because he dated them to the same period. And he found in some few cases also even the connections, communication, which looked like that, yes, this is probably maybe the road leading from the hill fort to the fields or to the another hill fort, and so on and so on. So for me, the study of landscape for archaeology, for prehistory and then early history and even history, whatever, is to look at larger territories to find which were the diachronic changes in the setting of sites, and also which were the connections in one horizontal period among these components of past landscape. So that's that. I mean, just one point we could discuss very well. But definitely, I would say yes. Aerial photographs, satellite images, LiDAR data, and so on, are in principle, if you want to speak about landscape, which means about large territories, more or less. So that's something which is inevitable. And obviously, absolutely important is the combination or even integration of variety of methods, ground-based methods, and historical cartography. Everything like that is absolutely inevitable, and it helps out. Just one more point is concerning and it's quite interesting, because Herbert Jankun, those of you who were present in the last week, we have Professor Klaus von Tarnav, who was talking about Haithabu and so on. And Haithabu was actually also a site which Jankun was actually discovering more or less, and did the first excavations and so on. And he was he was speaking quite, I mean, I was a little bit surprised even to say that he was quite critical, because he stressed what you didn't, that Jankun was a relatively hardcore SS Nazist member of the Nazi party, which, by the way, Heidegger was also tending to Nazi ideology as well. So it's quite interesting, and I am quite surprised to say, I mean, of course, that's very good, that the Polish, who had such an enmity with the Germans, that they allowed in 1977 to translate Jankun's book into Polish.
Jankun visited Poznan.
Oh, that's it. Oh, yes, Poznan used to be more or less
Yeah,
German. Sorry.
Okay, I'm originally from Southeast Poland, Southeast Poland. So Austria-Hungarian, yeah, Austrian-Hungarian. Anyway, yeah, but it was surprising, but it was the beginning of, let's say, renewing the connections with West German archaeology, yeah. Because it was a political agreement in '79, yeah, so then it was just much more opening. And Professor Żak, head of the Institute of Archaeology in Poznań, was in very good contact, so he initiated these connections and so on, and he was responsible for the translation of this Jan Kun's book. But going back for just a minute to Crawford. Crawford was absolutely fantastic person, and he did, let's say, started to work in these categories of landscape approach. So it means interpretation of archaeological information from area photographs and put on the maps and build maps. And his approach questioned the concept of archaeological site, because based on the information he got from area photographs, there were, let's say, the whole country should be one archaeological site. Okay, so it was one point. And the second one, he wrote a paper, Air Survey and Archaeology. It was published in 26, first and then 25, twice, it was published twice. It is best ever archaeological paper about using area photographs in archaeology. So if you are able to get it and read it, it is absolutely the best ever paper I read about aerial archaeology. So I recommend.
So we have no chance in the future to write better book on aerial archaeology. But one more point is to say to the, I absolutely agree with you what you said about the influence of Jan Kun approach to archaeology, the settlement civil archaeology to Poland, to Polish archaeology, because to Czech archaeology it was the same. And I myself am just living proof that it worked like this, because my dissertation was based on this concept as well.
Okay, so was, let's say, against. I am always to be against.
I mean,
yeah?
in that time it was just you first followed some region which we were working in about few hundred square kilometers, based on the Vltava in my case, for instance. And I follow the history of archaeology between the Roman period down to the end of the early Middle Ages, 12th century or something like that. And then in this basement of Jan Kun's theory, we had to put together all evidence, all data which were available in museums, in catalogs, in I don't know where, put them for each site. And then also to make some, if we had chance, possibility, time especially, to make some field research and so on, and then to write a diachronic history of archaeology of that period and so on and so on.
Okay.
Do you have something?
No, just allow people to go out, take fresh air and beer. Oh, yeah, question. Oh gosh.
Well, if I may ask one quick question. The AZP Plus project, is it some kind of a small project, just small group of researchers starting something new, or is it some kind of a great project?
AZP Plus, yeah? AZP Plus is a project that's run from the National Institute of Heritage of Poland. So it is governmental institution linked to the Ministry of Culture, and it is their initiative, but of course it depends on funding. The funding was from 19 to 22, so it's not now at this moment. The process of decisions in ministry is a very long one. It was warmly accepted. So now it is the stage of, let's say, preparation of concepts, building the structure of database, preparing people to using it, of course, solving the problem that there are, let's say, projects run by national governmental grants and so on and so on. So how to put data from these grants, how to force people applying remote sensing data to put it into the database, yeah? Because then it will be useful. Not AZP was funded by the government, so of course it was obligation to put data to the government, yeah, back. But if there are different institutions giving grants, so there is no way to force people to provide data to other institutions, yeah. But it is a challenge, and we will work on it. It is, let's say, something which might be valuable for all archaeologists in Poland, yeah, wherever they want. But people responsible for heritage are not very happy because they need just a polygon. So AZP gave them the polygon, yeah? So it means it should be protected. But if this remote sensing data, there will be many interpretations and many polygons, they will have to make a decision which polygon or how to sum the polygons and so on. So they will have to think, and it's a problem.
And also, I think that the problem is, it's not only in Poland. I remember in Italy, you know, that they say, this is the material, this is the evidence. If you find a pottery fragment or something like that, so that's a real material evidence. But something like crop marks, what is it? That is, we cannot save it because it's negative, something.
It's just guessing. It's just guessing.
It's your interpretation.
It's guessing.
Something.
It's worse than interpretation. It's guessing.
Yeah. Well, in your opinion. But that's another question. But I mean, if you have your houses, your Neolithic houses, which there is no other possibility how to interpret them and how to date them, even so, or Roman camps or whatever, you know. So that's from our point of view that there is no doubt about it. But they say, but this is not a real material, you know. It's
right.
Just something which shows anything which maybe is down there, but you know, that's it.
Okay.
I have a question. Do you use in Poland now artificial intelligence or something like automatic detection?
Yeah,
of
there are some attempts, but still not, let's say, good results. So I can tell something what I think about the AI. Of course, I guess that you know. Okay, it's just a tool. Again, it's a tool. Efficient tool to identify, but to identify what we know already. So can you imagine this medieval town when we put the this kind of image to the IE with the previous knowledge that there are sunken houses, yeah? Will the artificial intelligence identify it as a medieval town? Never, never, because artificial intelligence work only on the data which are, let's say, reference data, right? Okay, so, okay, it make the work faster, no doubt. It will enlarge our databases, no doubt, okay? It will be, but the question is, if we are, as Heidegger thought, or Baudrillard, that there will be a lot of data, a lot of information, but less meaning. Okay? So, and then we will be focused on the data identity or the places identified by artificial intelligence, and we will forget about looking for something different. Yeah? Searching for something which is not obvious. Yeah? It is our job, and artificial intelligence will not overtake it from us. So, okay, it's fantastic tool, but it is also algorithms, and depends on what kind of algorithm we apply, and depends on how big reference data, set of data we will prepare, the results depends on it. Yeah? So it's not reality anymore, definitely not reality. Yeah?
It's a pity you couldn't show us the image of the medieval town, because this town which disappeared was replaced into some other, and the ground plan is almost identical, if I
Right.
remember.
The original, this town existed for 40 years or so, and then was burnt and located in a new place. So thanks to it, I discovered the medieval town.
Today, the town that's still existing, still standing town, it's absolutely the same disposition, absolutely the same
Yeah.
disposition. How far is it
Yes,
from there?
the market in the new town is, in this discovered, the first one was 75 meters to 75 meters, and the new one is 100 meters to 100 meters. The street on the western part is exactly the same, because it was the same road from one place to Poznań. So it was located, according to the communication network, it was exactly the same location.
I understand that the city or town is the most complex system of settlement, but my question was for smaller objects like craters of bombs or something like that, because it can be more easy.
Yeah. Oh, craters. Sometimes I look at the images from Ukraine, and then I can see fields, bombed fields. Yeah, and then I think, oh gosh, how many pits? Can you imagine? Can you imagine in 5 years or 10 years, everything will be plowed out, yeah, and in the places of craters there will be crop marks, yeah. It's incredible. It is the same from the Second World War, yeah.
It's usually quite recognizable difference between. Okay, thank you very much.